Okay, so I'm going to have you start over and just do a brief. I'm in the middle of Satori, sorry, telling me, we were talking about Sierra, telling me about spaces. And we were talking about Sierra having a revelation that she could be 5 again. She could have the curiosity of a 5-year-old again. And you said, that's funny you mentioned that because my friend and I, tell me about some of the things you're doing.
Okay, so we have this space between our houses. There's a fence separating her house from my house. But there's this little stretch of land that's really not that big. It's only 5 feet across, maybe. And we made it into a ghost alley when we were really young because, we really believed in ghosts. And we sort of do now, but not in the same way, when you're younger. So we made this paper, and we burnt the edges of it so it looked all authentic. And then we signed our names on it, and we buried it so no one could ever get to it in my backyard. And we set up this alley because absolutely nothing grew in it. We covered the empty dirt with sparkles so that it would look pretty. And we had these black statues that my grandmother had made, and we put that around. And then we needed places to put things. So my neighbor, his dad had all this old wood left around that they would burn for their fire. But there was this one that was sort of in a crescent shape. And he brought that over, and we took turns holding it and screwing it into the fence. And now we had this little shelf area. And then we did a bunch of these things, and we put nails in so we could hang things up. And we made these traps out of all these old things that we had found around our house. This old net that was sort of a grayish color now, and this trampoline that had a broken spot in the middle of it so that the ghosts would fall through and we would be able to capture them. And we would hide, and we would camp out there sometimes in our little tent. And we would wake up really early in the morning, like 5 o'clock, and it'd be freezing out there, and we'd be huddled together waiting for these ghosts to come. And then it sort of faded and turned into this fairy alley. So we made all these fairy houses, and the whole thing was lined with fairy houses. And we had little apartments and stores and grocery places and flower houses. And we had this pit in the middle where we would put things, and we got these really cool rocks from this place, and we put them around, and that would be like a little stage, and they could have picnics there. And we had these little flowers we planted, and we got these things from dollar store, these glass pebbles and marbles and things, and we scattered them all around. And we planted grass because our neighbor was taking out grass from his yard, and he was going to throw it away. So we took all that and we transplanted it in our yard. And then, we bought a few things, but almost all of it was stuff we had found in our backyards or little porcelain things that just sat on our shelf and collected dust. And we would make these fairy houses out of pots, and they had this one thing that would cover this power thing in their yard. We took that, we cut it, windows and doors in it, and put that out and painted things. And then it sort of went away after a long time. Well, we didn't really believe in fairies that much anymore. And now it's sort of coming back. And we made this bench in it, and we start constructing things on it again. We have this silver tree that was spray painted by my grandmother. And we have these new things that we've taken out of our yard and put in there, and rusty old things. And, we sort of use our imagination and create these new places, these gardens, and then we pretend we're nymphs or fairies or people protecting things. And our dogs, we have these 2 dogs that go and roam about the place all the time. And one of them's a sun dog and the other's an ice beast. And we just sort of create all this rusty things into these thrones. And it's really fun.
So are you, relate that to the conversation we had right before this that made you think of that, about being able to change your mind?
When we were really young, we believed in all this stuff. And you know how she said, I wish I was 5 again, because you're so free then. That's what we were saying. We were saying, oh, I wish we were young again, because we believed in fairies, and we just ran about this place all afternoon, and now it's so different because we're just doing our work and saying, oh, well, we don't believe in that anymore. Why are we doing that? Or, oh, it's just a rusty old chair, not a throne. Geez, throw it away. And we're thinking about this, and we're just like, darn, I wish I was that age again.
Do you think this is feeding any of your writing?
Yes. A lot of things feed my writing, and they turn out in these strange ways, but in my book, I sort of like this sort of mystic, eerie feel in the forests, and there's silver leaves, and purple flowers, and a lot of that comes from our sort of twilight moments, watching the sunset and planting things, and turning rusty old things into these new places, because, I mean, in the book, in their forest, that's what they did. They sort of, there was this one gathering place made of these old stones, and that was actually my dream too, which is sort of funny. I hadn't thought about that until then.
Yeah, when you came in today,
Yeah.
say again what you said. You said that you had a dream and...
Oh yeah, I had this strange dream about some cousin that I had never met before visiting, and I didn't want him to come because I never met him. And I didn't want to be around this person I'd never met for, I don't know, he was coming for some ungodly time, like a month. I was like, what? And I got out of school, and then he sort of introduced me to this new world because he believed in these beings, these invisible beings. And they were real, and we sort of started believing in them even more. And there were these strange moments where we would be able to connect with them. And there were forests and meadows, and we would spend hours and hours and days just running through fields and across little creeks and brooks and stuff. And there's this one time where we were caught in a downpour. So we made this little tent between these two trees, and there was this lake. And we were like, oh, we can't swim in the lake like we were going to. We can't play because it's raining. And then we were just like, oh, heck with it. So we just jump into this lake. And sort of in mid-jump, something caught me. And I was just soaring over this lake. And then it was such a beautiful moment that I wish I could paint it out. So I painted it out in words.
So you already did write it?
I wrote a summary of it.
Okay.
It's
So
only like
that
2
was going to be
pages
my
long.
next question, because you did come in, you didn't even tell me the story, you just said, I have to write about it. So my question was going to be, what do you obviously love to write, and I'm wondering what that gives you, why you love it so much, and you just maybe answered it, you said it captures it, like you wanted to be able to...
There's a lot of reasons why I write. Sometimes when something bad happens or I'm in a bad mood, it's just a world you can escape to and bury yourself in. And other times you get to create it. It's exactly the way you want it. There's this kind of people, and there's conflicts, but they solve it this way. And I love reading. I mean, I used to be caught and get in trouble in school all the time because I'd be reading under my desk during math class or something, and I'd get in trouble for that, but I'd just be like, oh, I'm sorry, I know I should have been listening, but my book's really good. And I sort of combine all these little tiny elements or emotions that I felt while reading that book and sort of intertwine them in my own book when I write them.
So like when you had the dream, and then you said, I've got to get it, I've got to write about it. Why? Why do you have to capture that dream?
Because for me, I can't really describe my emotions very well, but it was such a beautiful moment, and I don't know, there was sort of an eerie magicalness about it, but then there was also this beauty. You're soaring over a lake, right? And it's such a happy moment. You wish you could relive that dream over and over and over again. And I almost prayed, I wish this was real, I wish this was real, instead of just a dream, you know? And then when you write about it, whenever you read it, you can sort of go through that and you feel sort of the same emotions you did when you had that dream.